Blau und weiß sein Leben lang. Hallo meine Leute, willkommen zum einzigen Schalke Podcast auf English. That's right folks, officially the world's only English Schalke podcast. This is episode 121 of SchalkeMerica and I'm your host Richard Kharman. Joining me as always on the show, co-host Jack Mangan. Jack, how are we doing on this Wednesday night?
The St. Patty's Day special, man.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I don't really have green on, I guess.
I got my Notre Dame hoodie on. I did not go to Notre Dame, so I mean,
I have a green cup. That counts, right?
And I got my pint of Guinness right here.
Boom. There it is, man. How you doing on St. Patty's Day?
It's getting stuck in my facial hair already. That was a horrible decision. Bring that on air. Off to a flying start. I'm doing all right. Big news day. We delayed the typical Monday live stream just because we had a feeling that at some point before this weekend we'd get some news that was worth talking about, and we didn't want to exclusively talk about the 5-0 thrashing to Wolfsburg. Although I will say, last week we came on the podcast after Gramatz's kind of debut against Mainz, and everyone was very excited about the clean sheet and the defense, and we said, hey, it's Mainz. Let's calm down. And naturally, all of the claims that he had very quickly settled the defense down went out the window once the caliber of opponent was raised a little bit. And then, I don't want to single anyone out too hard because there's a lot going on that's contributing to these results. But you will recall as well, dear listeners, that when Mustafi was brought in, wasn't too excited about it. And what we had said then, once again, is that he wouldn't be available to a Schalke side in January that is possibly the worst Bundesliga team in history if the kind of mistakes that we saw against Wolfsburg weren't present in his game to begin with. He wouldn't be available. He'd still be playing for Arsenal or, a European level team at the moment. And he might go back to one, in the summer. Who knows what's going to happen? But these are the kind of things that we've seen from him over the years that have kind of gone against his reputation as a top level defender. And unfortunately, they reared their head in this one, and he was directly responsible for at least 2 of the first 3 goals, and if not directly responsible for the second. So that was unfortunate to see.
Yeah, I would say arguably the first 3 goals were on him. Just real quick get through this game because we have to. Final score obviously 5-0. Goals from Mustafi, own goal in the 31st minute. Weghorst, as he always does, scores against Schalke in the 51st minute.
Good
Baku,
player.
we have Baku in the 58th, Brekalo in the 64th, and Maximilian Philippe in the 79th to round it out. It was not good. I mean, for a while we were hanging in there with Wolfsburg, but I mean, as soon as that own goal happened, it was just like the floodgates opened. Not much more to say on that, right?
We love that movie. We see almost every week.
My goodness, yeah.
Great, great 30 minutes, and then a different 60. So
yeah, and like I said, it's a better opponent. So obviously the true nature showed its head. We're gonna see again this weekend coming up against Gladbach, another good opponent. See what happens then.
I mean, arguably the only team in Germany in worse form than Schalke, though Gladbach at the moment. But I think it's much more likely that we end up being the one that breaks that streak for them rather than they being the opponent that breaks our run of poor performances. So
we are very charitable.
Obviously wouldn't expect much from this weekend, but we fight on, I guess, until it's mathematically settled otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, it's mathematically solved in our heads, right? But officially, it's not officially done. So we can safely move on from this game because there's not much to talk about, obviously, other than the goals. Unless you want to talk to goals, you can just go watch the highlights. I think the big story is, and obviously you can tell with the title of the podcast, the whole Rangnick situation has been very, very up and down. And I mean, us poor Schalke fans, you give us a little ounce of hope, and we're gonna take it full on. And then when our heart breaks, it breaks big time. But let's give a little timeline here. This whole Rangnick situation, and really, honestly, it kind of started last week. I guess before the game, it was after our podcast, certainly, where rumors were that we were looking for a new sporting director, and the name Kroosche from Leipzig was mentioned. and also as well RALF RANGNICK, right? He went on television in Germany and said that, hey, I'm interested in the job, that and between that and the German national team job, both those jobs interest me, and I feel like I could do well in both those positions. The name, or as soon as Rangnick's name actually became in the spotlight, that's when we started hearing about Croatia from Book, though, right? And first thing that came to my mind is why would he leave Leipzig? He's doing so well there. He has the potential to go to a big time club with what he's doing at such a young age. Whether that's true or not, we've heard all these kind of rumors. Jack, what were your initial thoughts when you heard Croatia's name linked with Schalke along with Rangnick?
I didn't think much. I just, for some reason, it was never super convincing to me that seemed like it was headed in that direction. The Rangnick stuff, I felt potentially had a little bit more weight to it, just because obviously some of the comments made by him or his representatives, and the fact that we were talking about this all the way back in the summer for a period of time. We were discussing the possibility of Rangnick coming in, and why at the time that was maybe unlikely, because there was a little bit of a potentially power vacuum post Clemens Tony's departing, and a kind of a young new board trying to figure things out, and maybe not willing to just kind of like cede all that power to something like Rangnick right away. But listen, I think from the Schalke perspective, if you have somebody as well thought of and competent, and that has as good of a track record as Rangnick does, and he's open to coming, you need to do everything in your power to bring him in. I don't see what better alternative really exists. I'm not saying there aren't like some legitimate concerns about people that are like a little bit, lukewarm on the Rangnick idea, but consider the situation we're in, consider the trajectory we're in, and you have somebody of that kind of demonstrated caliber who's willing to come to your club and take that challenge on. I think we need to do whatever we can to make it work, and that's why it was somewhat frustrating that at least this is how it's appearing to us, from the outside. That's why it was somewhat frustrating that it didn't appear to be the actual club hierarchy that was going after him. It was, if anything, a group of Schalke affiliated people operating outside the club and making contact with Rangnick to try to work out and figure out what the plan of attack would be, and kind of suss this thing out and see if he can, if he would be interested in it. And so that just is more further evidence, if that's how it really came about, of just like what are we doing? Like why isn't Schalke actively going out? Why is it a group of people that care about the club from the outside? They're the ones that are taking this on and taking the initiative. It's frustrating in that sense. But if he is attracted by this job and he does end up coming, we're able to work it out, I think that's borderline manna from heaven for Schalke supporters. I mean, in my opinion, we couldn't have asked for a whole lot better than that. What are your thoughts on all of it?
Well, first, on that last comment, I think I agree with you. This might be the best thing to happen to Schalke in a long, long time. But yeah, it's interesting that the whole secret group that someone from outside of the supervisory board went out and were adamant in trying to grab, get his services and trying to do what they can to make sure they have something for him. That was very odd to me, though I understood that. And then with all that news, an online petition was started by Schalke fans to try to get people to sign on to be all pro Rangnick, really. And to date, there are, I think, over 50,000 people signed up on that petition. So that's a strong statement from the fans. Obviously, RALF RANGNICK noticed it.
Almost 1/3 of the membership.
Yeah, and RALF RANGNICK noticed it.
Exactly. Right? I mean, he literally actually got to the person involved in who expressed that he was touched by that sentiment. So certainly can't hurt,
No, certainly, absolutely. So that was an interesting statement. But I mean, the whole thing overall, I mean, yeah, I agree with you. I think someone someone who's as well spoken of as Rangnick is, someone who has, I guess you can even call him transformative in the German game. He declares interest in your club. You have to do everything you can to try to bring him to your club, right? Yes, there's probably some hiccups along the way. I'm sure price has something to do with it. What we learned this week is that, to many people's shock, not ours, but many people's shock, that he wants a dual job. We've been saying this for the last year. I feel like that, hey, when he comes, he's gonna want power, right? Job manager and sporting director. We've been saying this down our throats for last year, And then all of a sudden people are like, oh, what? He wants 2 jobs. What is the English?
Yeah, and at some point he would step away from the managerial role and then just go up into the office. Yeah, but at least the first season, you would imagine he's going to want to be the one actually on the on the pitch side. So,
and the reason for this, many people don't get, is that he has a certain style of play he wants to implement, and the best way for him to do it is for him to do it, right? If you can't get someone to do it, you do it yourself. Then the question will be, what would happen with Grammozis in this situation? Would it be assistant manager? What would happen? Nobody knows about that. It's a lot of what ifs.
I mean, it would be unfortunate for him if he signed on only to immediately be, moved into like an assistant role or just canned. The one thing you could say is it's not as if this guy has a super long track record of different managerial positions. He's still very early into his career, so it's not really like that much of a step back for him if you think about it in those terms. And hey, and who knows, maybe if this happened, and we're purely in the realm of speculation because it's not confirmed that Rangnick's coming yet, but assuming it does happen and assuming he does take over the managerial duties, hey, maybe he says, hey, stay on as a coach, and then when I go upstairs, you'll be in consideration for the managerial position then, if we think that if you're in a place to lead us at that point. And it's not just the players that are having that time under Rangnick. It'd be Grammozis who's having that time under Rangnick in terms of learning how to coach that system and what kind of things that he wants to be working on. So, a lot up in the air at the moment, but it's at least giving us some sense of optimism that there is thoughtful direction being taken by some people somewhere that are invested, and that's nice to see and gives us something to hold on to despite the continued results that we're still in the midst of right now.
And there's a track record of this. It's not like this is the first time he'll ever do it. He did this at Leipzig, right? He managed them until they made to the Bundesliga, and then he stepped back. And this is what he does. And so I think, that it could work out brilliantly for Grammozis. Really, is that you go under the wing of Rangnick, learn the system for that first year, hopefully first year, that you're in this fight the Bundesliga, and then when you get promoted up, he gives you the reins and you try it out, and see how it goes from there. But so a lot of what ifs. There's no definitive yes, he's coming yet. I heard one of the rumors was in the last couple of days is that he has more interest in the German job, the German national team job, more than Schalke, mostly because of the crisis going on backstage, and he doesn't really want to deal with it. That's a rumor. You heard so many rumors on both sides, so it's hard to say what's really going on.
One of the things I'll say real quick is the group that was kind of initially making contact with Rangnick, they kind of revealed themselves today. Another positive thing, in my opinion, at least from the statements they made, was that they seem to have a great deal of respect for the input of the fans and the fans' place in terms of helping to direct the direction. I mean, they seem to at least be paying lip service to that. Whether or not they believe that or not is something else. But that's nice to see that the fans have been feeling there's a lack of transparency for a while, a lack of interest in really, really listening to them, truly, and to have a group of people that are trying to change the direction of things and immediately making that a priority in the things they say is nice as well.
Yeah, one of the first comments that they made was that we have no affiliation with Clemens Tönnies, and nor we will want to bring him back. So they try to make it emphatic that they have no association with him, because I know there were some rumors about that. So yeah, the secret group did reveal themselves today. And a lot of rumors going around saying that they went behind the back to get sponsorship deals and this and that. And they came out and said, no, that's not true at all. But they did reveal some more, like what you talked about, how they do have the Schalke spirit in mind, and they really want to do things the right way by the fans. And obviously a lot is going on too with the supervisory board elections coming up as well. People posturing for positions, both already on the supervisory board and those who want to come in, namely from the secret group. So it's a very, very interesting, very Schalke situation going on, Jack. And we do know that the advisor for Rangnick has met the supervisory board, from what we could tell. And there's been some conversations here and there, but nothing yet with Rangnick. And it's expected something's supposed to happen tomorrow. Tomorrow is Thursday. That will maybe get some more information. Who knows? I don't think it's going to be a quick process with any of this, just because there's a lot of things they have to figure out. I mean, if there's definitely interest on both sides, then you got to look about price. I know they talked about maybe giving him Joachim Schneider's salary for the first, 5 years, whatever, or first year, and then when he gets promoted, there's clauses. I've also heard crazy numbers that Rangnick wants something. So, yeah, it's a lot of unknowns right now. But the big thing I think that's pulling out our strings is that it's this love story with Rangnick, right? And I think the big thing we all should be worried about is if it doesn't happen, because we've seen this story before where we hope for something and it doesn't happen. This is going to suck even more. Even it's going to suck just as much as going down to fight the Bundesliga.
Yeah, it would be very similar to me, holding out hope that the Bears are going to sign Russell Wilson and then us signing Andy Dalton. Be something like that, just to pick something off the top of my head. Yeah, I guess what I would say is, I mean, you would think this group claims to have formed like 9 months ago. So you would think over that period of time, funding would have been part of the conversation. At least funding in terms of like, how are we going to, afford to bring a guy like Rangnick in, if not, funding the entire operation. And so I would imagine there's at least some contingencies that are potential. I'm not saying like contract details are, but I'm saying like they have some sort of confidence that they can cobble enough to make it feasible. So
yeah, for sure. And it looks like they got a mix of people from different backgrounds, former Schalke, not only players, but team members. There's people from the outside who are trying to become in the supervisory board. You got people who are like part of sponsors or something. It's a big mix of just random people. It seems like it's not random.
Ingo Onderbrugge, Eurofighter. You got Kemmers in there. You got former team doctor. You got oh man, who's the guy that used to run Kapishmita?
Yeah.
I'm blanking on the name. I apologize.
Yeah.
But I mean, there are some familiar names, I think, to some Schalke fans, and then there's some others as well. So, big news day, big time news day. Couple big news days. Really, yeah.
And until something becomes official, one way or the other, we won't know too much more. I mean, you can hear rumors here and there. Obviously, guys like Patrick Berger, Andreas Ernst, and some others commenting on the news that's breaking from different outlets. We just try to follow along as much as possible. I mean, first it was like the first 9 of the 14 members were revealed, and then finally today they all came out. And yeah, it's a ever changing hour by hour situation. It seems like tomorrow is supposed to be something more supposed to happen. We'll see. Will anything happen by the Gladbach game? I don't know. I doubt it. Just because this kind of things you want to get right. Whether it's whether you do want to do, whether you sign them or not, you need to get it right. And I think the ultimate goal is to make sure Schalke are headed in the right direction. I mean, Knabel came out today and said, we are certainly planning for this fight to Bundesliga. I mean, how could you not? With 10 points on 11 points behind your next closest opponent, it's almost a certainty at this point. It's not official yet, like we said, but I mean, you look at the standings, it's official to us, right? So at least there are planning for that, and so you have to get it pitch perfect, I think, because it's going to be difficult. It's going to be a difficult year next year, and so having the right pieces in place in terms of sporting director is vital, I think. And we may have a manager now, we may have a new one, who knows? But yeah, it's ever changing, Jack, minute by minute. We should be checking our Twitter during this podcast, huh? Actually, it's nighttime in Germany, so maybe not.
And I do want to say, despite the criticism of individual players or the performances at times, I do appreciate all of the players who are still there and actively trying to turn things around when they are, and putting in a shift. Because it certainly, as a professional footballer, cannot be enjoyable to be in their situation, even though they are largely to blame for it. It still cannot be fun for them to do that week in, week out. So to those who are still really trying, we do appreciate it, but it's probably a lost cause at this point. It has been it has been for a while. It's still not mathematical, but we just haven't. No. Every time there's a glint of like maybe we can turn a corner, it's another game where we concede 4 and or whatever and don't score. I think our expected goals against Wolfsburg was like 0.25, maybe less for the whole game. It's just like,
and that might have been higher than against Mainz, which is sad.
Yeah. So it's just horrible in both directions,
It is. We hit the minus 50 goal milestone this year. We're not Tasmania Berlin in terms of that, but we are pretty bad. You're getting close to historic type numbers here overall, especially with the 10 points that we currently have. But you mentioned players, and I think it's a good transition. First, we know that going to this fight, the Bundesliga, we are probably going to lose some players. Several players are tied with contracts that they can compete in this fight, the Bundesliga, but you'd imagine we'd probably offload some that we could probably get some money for, like Harid, maybe a Serdar, some other ones, obviously Bentaleb or something like that would be other names as well. But a name popped up on the radar, I guess, in the last day or two. Jack, you want to get into the American Mr. Hoppy?
Well, the good doctor himself, Mr. Manu Vet, over at Transfermarkt, tweeted out an article, I believe today, in which, according to some sources, and anytime you're dealing with transfer rumors, it's inherently a little bit messy, but apparently there's a gentleman's agreement in place between Schalke and Matthew Hoppe that if a offer comes in for him that satisfies Schalke's asking price, they will allow him to leave. I just find this interesting because I feel like we've had quotes from Hoppe in the past like couple months being like, I can see myself at Schalke for a long time. And maybe I'm imagining those, but I feel like that's been the sentiment for the most part, is that he's very, and then now we're suddenly hearing that, he's already has something in place to potentially leave if he wants, which listen, I can't blame anybody who wants to jump off this boat as a player. Absolutely cannot blame them. And I won't hold them. I don't hold it against Weston. I don't hold it against Ozan Cobb. I mean, I don't hold it against anybody.
No.
But I mean, listen, I think the general sentiment and agreement amongst a lot of Schalke supporters would be a year or two in this fight to Bundesliga would not, would do this guy some good and would not be like a bad kind of trajectory for him. I know he's the hat trick hero, which is something that I don't think any other American has accomplished in the Bundesliga. And I'm not trying to diminish that. But it's difficult to evaluate any striker in the Schalke system because there's no service. So it's like, what do you want from these people? But, it's not as if he's replicated that performance consistently. And it came against, an injury-ridden Hoffenheim team at the time. So it's just kind of like, is he already after half a season ready to make some sort of like significant money move to, I mean, we don't even know like what clubs would potentially be interested really right now, but it's interesting. What I will say though, is the number that was quoted as potentially being Schalke's asking range is like 7 to 10 million.
Yeah.
Now that has my attention to some extent because I feel like if we could get that kind of return for him after this little of a sample size, you'd take it and you'd take it to the bank and you'd be happy. To any clubs watching this, Matthew Hoppe is absolutely worth $7 to $10 million, potentially more. So absolutely give us that kind of return.
Yeah, especially after some of the amounts that we've given up some other key players that didn't go for as much, right? McKennie, Ozan Kabak, and others. So, you hate to lose them because, the potential is there. But, if someone, for any of the players, they come with the right asking price, you have to at this situation, right? Just because we need the money. We're desperate. And also, before the Manoveth tweet came out, Grant Wall is also as well mentioned that, Ajax and some other big European clubs had expressed interest in Hoppe. There seems to be interest. If it was a club like Ajax, that's a great training facility for many youngsters as the Knappensschmiede. Whatever happens with that, I mean, if he were to stay, great, and if he is sold, if we can get some money for him, even better. But I don't hold it against somebody who wants to leave because of the situation, because it is hard. I mean, no players replicated their performance from Hoffenheim. I mean, the strikers can't get the service, midfielders aren't passing up, and just the whole. Maybe only the goalies are the ones. So.
Look how much better Weston McKennie instantly looks at Juventus, and I mean, there could be a lot of reasons for that. His teammates, his coaching, whatever. But you have to imagine that a lot of these players in a different situation would look significantly better than they're looking. It's not exactly helping their careers and stuff, and it makes a lot of sense for some of them to move. Would just be a shame if #the happening was that short lived. I wouldn't have expected it to be
shorter than the Frikatucci, right?
Yeah, the Frikatucci was eternal, but I mean,
then it'll be free Mustafi.
We just need to get another American in the SchalkeMerica must live on. We have to have
Evan Rotondo is still around, so
yeah, we have to have somebody in the first team to hold over Tedesco time's head as much as possible. So,
and for those who are wondering, if you were to get 10 millions for Hoppe, would that be a record for somebody who had such a short amount of games? Probably not. I mean, Haaland after one game probably went up to like 100 million. So, crazy things happen in a short amount of time. So anyway. I know it'd be nice. If he does go, we as Schalke Americans would like to see more. Another American in there, even Canadian in there. Either way, I just
whoa, Canadian,
North American, right?
Calm down.
That's part of America. South American. We're not Schalke, United States America, right? It could be South American or Central American.
I guess technically we didn't specify which America we're talking.
That's right.
About,
we're the Americas, half the world there. No,
Schalke America. Sounds like an international corporation. Schalke Americas.
We are the secret group. No, I'm just kidding. Maybe I shouldn't mention that.
I don't think anyone wants that.
Oh man. So it's an interesting situation with the players and what's going to happen. But I mean, ultimately, the first chip that I think that's going to fall is what's going to happen with the sporting director, right? And to bring it back to Rangnick, Will he come or will he not, Jack? That is $1 million question. There's obviously reasons why he's looking for one more job before he retires. Apparently, both if he does well for the Die Mannschaft or Schalke and is successful with them, would look great on his resume. Just put a cap on everything he's done in his career. I obviously we're biased toward Schalke, but I mean, who knows what the hell is going to happen?
I mean, I wouldn't blame him for pursuing either opportunity, either with Die Mannschaft or Schalke, but I feel as though there would be more pressure on him if he took the Germany job, because it is such a dumpster fire at this club currently that if he failed to rebuild it, I don't think it would dent his reputation that much, because people would probably write it off as being like, hey, the guy came in, willingly put himself in that situation, tried his best, didn't happen. Yeah. Whereas I feel a lot of people still feel at the talent level of the German player pool, they should be in contention probably for a World Cup. I'm not saying they're the favorites or anything like that, but like they should be around there. And if he takes that job, and they don't get results and don't improve on what's been the last couple of years under Love, I think he's going to be under a lot more criticism there. So, and I feel like also like his chance to be a hero is also much more. It's like lower risk, higher ceiling reward for the Schalke thing. I mean, he's going to go down as literally a club legend. If he were to get us back to the Bundesliga and back into decent form within a couple of years.
And I think with what his, just from what the little I know of him from his career, he has more power potential with Schalke than he would at the Die Mannschaft. There's going to be so many other hands in there, possibly. So it'll be hard for him to really stay or insert his will on the team and how he really wants him to play, as opposed to Schalke. Really, if he gets what he wants and gets the manager and sporting director role, he can really mold him into what what he's done in the past and build on that. Maybe even be more efficient than he has been in the past, like Leipzig. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think imagine if he can return Schalke to the glory that it was, and then he'd just be in lore forever. I mean, forever if that were to happen, especially with Schalke fans. But just in general, to bring Schalke back from this fight the Bundesliga into becoming a perennial Bundesliga challenger again, he would should be like top of the castle. And obviously, some old ex-Schalke players are coming out saying they support him. Klaus Fischer came out recently. Former manager Manuel Baum was on the TV. I was watching that this weekend. I guess it was this weekend, and he was saying how I think Rangnick is the guy to do it. I think he really should be. I'm really putting my hat into his name. So a lot of support going for him. There's not as many against us. There are some for sure, and it's understandable. I can see both sides, but we don't know what's going to happen here. So Jacob,
once again, I'm just not seeing a super strong alternative that's like really, really looking.
There isn't.
So I mean, if the board was saying, we're not sure about Rangnick, but what do you think about this? Well, then maybe we could have a conversation. But this guy has a different job offer potentially on the table. We might have a limited time window. If he's there, I just feel like we're so desperate for competency in some of the higher positions in terms of our sporting direction and everything. I don't know how we pass it up.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And if you're in the chat, let us know your thoughts on this whole Rangnick saga. Jake, I saw your message about. He says Hoffenheim and Leipzig were both also benefited by external benefactors in a way unlike how Schalke would go. And obviously, we've heard rumors about how that could go with Schalke, whether it be he would try to deviate from the 50+1 or not. We've heard counter arguments also from the secret group about not deviating from that too much. So. It's a who knows situation right now.
It seemed like they were going to make a strong case for it, but that they would yield to the will of the membership.
People. Yes.
But obviously the people that are firmly of the conviction that we shouldn't go in that direction, I could see how they could be skeptical of those claims and concerned that with Rangnick in charge, they would just kind of railroad things and get that change pushed through.
Yeah, exactly. So
did we mention Danny Latza today?
We did not. Look at all this. We're talking about other
there
stuff.
And Danny Latza comes home. So there's that.
See, that's the start of people coming home, right? Oh, we already
had another
coming home. Another person.
Another feel-good Schalke signing from yesteryear.
Yeah.
But nice that he is once again somebody who wants to come back and try his hand at Schalke in the later parts of his career and try to make an impact before he ends things. So I'm happy to take him. For sure.
Absolutely. And one of the I guess good stories that came out of the Wolfsburg match is that they mentioned that Kola is strongly considering staying with the club through relegation to try to bring him back up. He wants to stay with him. He doesn't want to move on. try to help. If that's true, that's great. That's great to hear, because we need to have some of those guys that are going to willing to stick through the mud and try to get the club back, other than just jumping ship. And you can't blame people for jumping ship, if that happens. But obviously,
he already has my basically eternal respect for even coming back in the first place, and then also the active role that he reportedly took in recruiting some other guys to come here as well. I don't think his dedication is in doubt, and if he dips after this half season, I mean, good for him. Fully support it.
The question, I guess, for many, at least from a player's perspective, what we are waiting for, I guess, is Huntelaar. See, as soon as he's joined us, he's been injured, and every time you think he's going to get closer, it's another week or two. So, I mean, who knows? He would obviously help things look better on the pitch potentially, but not having him is really a kick to the nuts, really, because we're expecting this guy. We had this love story. We were like, oh, he's going to come back and do so well for us, and then kicking the nuts, and he hasn't been playing for us because he's been injured. So that's my whole fear with this whole Rangnick thing, because we've seen this time and time again, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's I mean, and Paciencia as well. There's been multiple that we brought in that we thought could potentially have an impact that just really haven't been given the opportunity to because of various circumstances. Mark Oot was playing well until his injury. And then that just sort of seemed to like take him off the rails. I mean, he hasn't really been picked a whole lot. Is he injured again right now? I don't even know that. I should know that, but I thought he was maybe just not going to.
He might have. He might be. Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, so there's a lot of that's gone on, not only this year but last year as well. That's something else that hopefully you can get a handle on going forward is the fitness of our team. We've had too many issues with depth. So
one of our buddies from the Hey Eintracht Frankfurt podcast just sent me a picture of him holding a Guinness beer. So cheers to you. Cheers to you, Brian. Very cool. Anything else you want to chat about tonight? Because I mean, again, it's nobody wants to talk about Wolfsburg. Gladbach is on the horizon. That's going to be interesting because it could be very well the same that we saw at Wolfsburg, or it's a team we've played fairly well, even though we've been on the losing end. It's been closer. We'll see. We'll see what happens. They just got fresh off a beating from Man City, I guess, in the Champions League. So they haven't been playing well, as you mentioned. It's going to be tough for us no matter what. But we just want to see. We got 9 games left. Finish the season strong. That's what I want to see, because it's
Embolo brace incoming.
Oh God, for us or Mustafi brace own goal. No.
All of our former players score against us. It's gonna happen. Embolo's gonna score.
Yeah.
No, who knows? I mean, what's the fun in continuing to watch if you can't keep a little bit of at least half sarcastic optimism? Like I said, Gladbach in bad form. I'm gonna talk myself into the upset. Why not?
4-0 Schalke, right?
Yeah, dude. Hoppy hat trick, part 2.
There it is. The asking price goes up to 20 million after that, right?
I would love to have Kolasinac take a free kick from deep and just line drive it with his left and just whack it. I'd like to see that. I'd like a goal scored that way. That'd be fun. Yeah. Give us something spectacular to hold on to. Even if the result is
pretty goal.
Yeah, give us a nice
great team goal, cut through people, 100%. And then whatever else happens. Okay, well, let's keep this short and sweet, Jack. Not much. I mean, there's a lot of news going on these last couple of days, but more probably to come here in the next few days too. So we'll see what happens. We'll be back at a regular scheduled time, unless this gets dragged out even longer with the whole sporting director situation. So we'll see. But either way, game is on Saturday morning, I believe, 9:30 my time, 8:30 your time, I believe. That's East Coast and Central for those who are keeping track at home. But let's wrap this one right now. Jack, any shout outs you want to give out to SchalkeMerica Nation here?
No.
No, none. I'm going to give one to Brian from the Hey Eintracht Frankfurt podcast, just because they sent us that picture of the Guinness beer. And obviously all the people who follow us on YouTube and all the comments from our last discussion that we've had on Rangnick from we look back to episode 100. It was 21 episodes ago where we talked about it. So that wasn't too long ago. And that wasn't even the first time we talked about it. So definitely shout out to everyone who's been following us and keeping tabs with us. So
yeah, we appreciate the engagement, whether it's here in the live stream or, questions submitted ahead of time or just random stuff on Twitter. We love, discussing things with all of you and getting some of that input on the pod as well.
Absolutely. Jack, where can our followers find you on social media?
Oh, it's on the screen, bro. JM Mangan, JMMANGAN on Twitter. I rarely tweet and I'm not interesting to follow, but do it anyway.
Do it.
Actually, follow the SchalkeMerica podcast channel so it boosts our numbers there. Follow us on YouTube. Don't follow me.
That's right. That's right. I agree with that. Same thing with me. You don't have to follow me, but if you want to, it's on the screen at R_KHARMAN on and all your social medias there. So, but definitely give the podcast a follow on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and obviously on YouTube. Subscribe, like, leave comments. That would be much appreciated. So, with that, until the next podcast comes or news breaks, we'll be with you soon. Tschüss. Schalke.